All right, welcome back to Cheddar, everyone. We also want to welcome all of you listening to us on iHeartRadio. Good morning to you as well.
Welcome.
All right, well, if you were watching, it was a nail-biter until the very end. Look at this. In Monday's national championship college football game. But as many expected, Alabama pulled off the win. However, President Trump getting all the attention this morning, it seems, as it appeared he actually didn't know the words to the national anthem. Very strange considering all of the tweeting that we've seen around the national anthem and especially the NFL this year from the president. Joining us now is James Yoder, CEO and founder of Chat Sports. James, we're going to get to the actual game here in a second, but a lot of people talking about the president and the stadium's reception right when he walked onto the field. So I don't know if you were at the game, but what was your read on the tone there?
Yeah, so I think the kind of reporting out there is actually a tad inaccurate. I don't think from being in the stadium that most people would have characterized it as boos or a mix of boos and cheers. I think it was neutral to positive. I don't think we heard too many boos and definitely heard a lot of cheers. But I would say more than anything, it was just noise when he came out, a heightened noise versus when he wasn't out in the field just prior to that, but noise in general. But you didn't hear any loud booing from big portions of the crowd. And I don't think we expected that given that the game is in Atlanta against two teams that are, kind of in the heart of Republican country, Atlanta and Georgia, or Alabama and Georgia.
And what do you make of the notion that it appeared that he didn't know the words to the national anthem? Is that something that only people on TV, people who watch the game on TV, were talking about, or did that appear on the screen on the screens at the field as well?
It did not. No, it did not appear on the screen when you're at the game, but that was something that people were talking about just via seeing it on social media. But there wasn't really a topic inside the game by any means.
All right. I think we got to turn our attention
let's
now
talk about
to
the game.
First reaction, James, or what was your reaction to the game last night?
Well, it's amazing how Alabama pulled their starting quarterback at halftime, put in a true freshman starting quarterback who kind of got off to a little bit of a rough start on his first drive, but was the star of the game with an amazing touchdown pass in overtime to another true freshman. And, oh, by the way, they pulled their starting running back and put in a true freshman running back. So their quarterback who threw for 166 yards and only playing one half and 3 touchdowns, the guy who caught the touchdown pass, and their leading rusher for the night are all 18 or 19-year-olds, true freshmen. These are guys that were in high school just 7-8 months ago. So That's really the story of the night. And coming into this game, Georgia's starting quarterback, Jake Fromm, also a true freshman. So we have never seen this kind of youth from championship level teams in the national title game, really in the history of college football. So both these teams are going to come back loaded next year, and in the top 25 we've got for 2018, they're number 1 and probably number 2 or 3 with Georgia there. But Alabama comes back next year, just cemented as kind of your undisputed number 1 team to start next year.
Well, let's talk ticket price here, because $2,300 was the average ticket price. That's at least according to StubHub. So that number is 41% higher than the last 5 championship games. Why do you think we saw that this year?
Well, so it's driving distance for both fan bases, and that's really the differentiator here. And these two teams being driving distance didn't play this year. We've had Alabama playing the national title against an SEC team before, back in 2011, but that was a rematch of a game that already happened. LSU beat Alabama in the regular season that year. Alabama won the rematch, but these two teams didn't play each other. Georgia's an hour away, and their fan base is just kind of took over Atlanta this weekend and into Monday, and Alabama is only a 3-hour drive. So the fact that it's driving distance, there's so much of this city was just filled with fans. And oh, by the way, Georgia hasn't been in a national title game in 37 years, I believe. And so with that being said, there's a pent-up demand from the Georgia fan base. Now, the last time ticket prices were in this stratosphere were 5 years ago when Notre Dame made the national championship game after a 20-plus year drought, and their fans kind of really took over the stadium. So big demand, but mostly I think it comes down to not having to have the additional cost of hotel or multiple nights hotel and airfare for both teams, and that's what drove it. But one thing to note, this is the first national championship game in college where paper tickets were completely eliminated. Wow. So you couldn't buy a ticket off a scalper on the streets, and I do think that drove the ticket prices up because the ticket prices became very transparent and there was no guessing what people were paying because it was all electronic. You couldn't take a paper ticket and walk into the game.
Okay, well, Vegas, of course, I mean, some big bets coming out on this game as well, right, James? Mostly out of Vegas?
Certainly a lot of gambling that went on this one. Alabama was a 4-point favorite. I thought that was a little bit high given that the game was really in Georgia's default home field in Atlanta. And so it turns out, the game was right around that number. So depending on if people got in early when the point spread was only 2, 3, or potentially late when it bumped up to 4, 4.5, really depends on whether they made big money or lost with the result last night. An overtime game, the first national championship overtime we've seen since 2002 when Ohio State and Miami did the same thing. That game went into double overtime.
Let's talk a little more money here, because the Super Bowl, of course, is the holy grail in terms of at least commercials and appointment viewing for those commercials, setting records each year. But where do the price of commercials fall in relation to the Super Bowl for this game?
Yeah, not even the same stratosphere. Average Super Bowl commercials going from $3.5 to $5 million, and this game is about 10 to 20% of that, depending on what time of the game you get in. Now, this game is broadcast on ESPN, so it's cable. The ratings are by default going to be much lower, so they don't get the advertising rates you're going to get on a Fox or CBS or ABC national network rating. So much lower, and I think you'll see the ratings, because this is an SEC versus SEC championship game. When the ratings come out, and I believe we've gotten some early overnights, but not the final ones, I think you're going to see this be one of the lower championship rated games we've seen, because of the location of both teams. You've really isolated one corner of the country, the Southeast, and their fan base, but on the West Coast and the Southwest, even in the Northeast, there wasn't a ton of interest going into this game, and I'm sure people watched. It turned out to be an all-time classic, but I don't think the initial game interest would have been the same had it been Alabama and Oklahoma, maybe a little more intersectional rivalry.
Okay, talk to us more about the Trump factor here, James. I mean, did it cause any delays getting into the actual stadium? Do you think that people there did, receive him with open arms?
Well, there was a lot of rumors of protest, but we didn't really see that at all. There was a few people, maybe 2 or 3 only, as you walked into the gate that our staff went into. But what I will say is this. Donald Trump's arrival delayed fans 30, sometimes as high as 40, 45 minutes. I saw tweets out there that there's going to be some angry fans who still aren't in the game because of the delays, but they shut down all entrance to the stadium about an hour or so prior to the game, and there was just a backed up crowd for 30, sometimes as high as 40, 45 minutes. As I mentioned, to get in the game, and people were getting a little riled up. There was some loud fans wondering what the delay was, wondering why they couldn't get in, and also, of course, the Atlanta traffic took a hit, as you can imagine, when Donald Trump's motorcade came in and then left the stadium. They shut down highways in the direction he was coming from and going to while his motorcade made his way out of the city. Funny enough, did not stay for the full game. They had highways shut off, we've been told, right at halftime. So it sounds like he may have left right at halftime. I haven't been able to confirm that or not this morning, though.
James, while we have you, we got to talk NFL. What teams are your picks for Super Bowl this year?
Well, I mean, I think it's got to be the Patriots. Now,
always,
they've got a little
always.
bit of they have a little bit of challenge and internal struggle. Usually, when the Patriots have some turmoil around them, it's them against the world. Whether it's Deflategate, whether it's Spygate, and all these scandals they've had. The latest one that's come out is that there's internal struggles that Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, Tom Brady, there's this 3-man power struggle to see who's going to get their way on the future of this team. With Tom Brady turning 40 this year, a lot of rumors that Bill Belichick wanted to potentially sign a different quarterback, maybe let Brady walk and go to another team after this season. They traded their backup, Jimmy Garoppolo. So a big article came out this week talking about this power struggle between Brady and Belichick. So we'll see if that unites the teams or if it separates and divides them. But on the NFC side, I mean, the Vikings haven't played this week. They didn't play this week. They had the bye. But going into this next week, I'm really interested to see how Minnesota plays. They've got Case Keenum, a guy no one really expected to be a star NFL MVP level quarterback, really rise up this year. And given the game is in Minnesota, they have the opportunity to be the first team to play at their home stadium for a Super Bowl. So that's really interesting to watch. I think it'll make a really, really neat dynamic, much like we saw last night with Georgia playing in, kind of their hometown of Atlanta, an hour away from their stadium in Athens.
All right, James. Well, I think a lot of people now really gearing up for the Super Bowl here. I'm rooting for the Pats.
I can't believe that. Yeah, we just found out something about each other during this, so yeah.
We're going to butt heads here in the break. All right, James Yoder, thank you again, CEO and founder of Chat Sports.
Thanks, James.